Operator here. Welcome to the Cyberpunk Matrix Podcast, your one-stop shop for everything cyberpunk. In just a second, we're going to connect you to the cyberspace. So hold on to your seatbelt, Dorothy, because Kansas is going bye-bye.
Hey guys, it's me, Alex, and today let's talk about Cyberpunk and what exactly it is. Maybe you've seen The Matrix or Blade Runner, or more recently Battle Angel Alita, or maybe Ready Player One, and you kind of like all those kind of movies. You're noticing a trend. They're all kind of dark. They're all kind of futuristic, but you don't know exactly what do they have in common. They're not just sci-fi, right? There's something more to that. Maybe you didn't realize it, but they all do have something in common, and that's that they're in the category of cyberpunk. So first, let's go back and look at what exactly cyberpunk is. So what is cyberpunk exactly? Well, to me, cyberpunk is really defined by the definition high tech and low life. You have dystopian societies set in the future where there's a high income inequality between the very rich and the very poor. And so the very rich live in these high rise buildings that are so high they go above the clouds. And they've sometimes found technology where they can live to near immortality, continuing consciousness, or with futuristic technology or bionics and stuff like that, advanced body technology. And then the low lives are the people living in the gutters, living in the streets, who are just trying to make their living, going through trash or trying to sell things on the black market, and they're making do with what they can. And then you have the corporations that are crushing the people and society, and there's no government that really protects the people. And so it's really a dystopian futuristic society that is really helpful to have as a stark warning to current reality of how things should not be in the future. Um, so if people are getting excited about Neuralinks and connecting chips to the brain with Elon Musk, you take a look and see what happens with Upgrade, the movie where a artificial intelligence controls a man's body and leads him to commit some murders. So obviously that's something that we wouldn't want to have happen, and we don't know that that's a dangerous future unless if we watch Cyberpunk, unless if we watch these science fiction type movies to see what we shouldn't do. Cyberpunk is sort of creating a resurgence right now, or going through a resurgence right now. I think partly due to the Keanu, which is Keanu Reeves, and how he's becoming so popular. Um, I mean, that's part of it. It's just that the technology right now has also become really good to the point where they can film things. I mean, like I knew it was becoming more mainstream when Steven Spielberg decided to pick up Ready Player One, the novel, and make it into a movie. And that was definitely cyberpunk, but more for a teenage audience, I think. And so it shows how, like, classic film directors like Steven Spielberg, of all people, decide to get in on this cyberpunk genre. They recently redid Blade Runner 2049 with Ryan Gosling. That was in 2017. They redid Ghost in the Shell with Scarlett Johansson, and some people didn't like that casting choice. I thought it was fine, but that was from a cyberpunk favorite. There was an anime and a manga first, and then it was the first live action that they did. So we're seeing a lot of these new movies with Battle Angel Alita. Same thing. It was a manga and then an anime film, and then like they did a sort of live action. And I think it's just going to continue. And then most recently, you had the video game Cyberpunk 2077 that came out, and it's continuing on that trend. And it's so much on the genre that it chose to call itself cyberpunk. I mean, you can't get more cyberpunk than that. I chose to start Cyberpunk Matrix because when I realized that cyberpunk was a genre, I didn't know where to start. I didn't know what were the books to read first, the ones that really created. Once I figured out that there was a term, this term of cyberpunk, and that it had all these different types of media in it, books and movies and video games and stuff, I thought to myself, where do I start? How do I begin in this journey of consuming? I wanted to consume as much cyberpunk content as possible. And so I looked online. There wasn't really any clear indication of what I should start with. There was no genealogy, no history, no really. I just had to pick it up bits and pieces. So after I started with the movie Blade Runner and the book Neuromancer, I kind of had to figure it out on my own. And so I said, well, why don't I create a space online where other people like me can have a blueprint of where to go and how to discover the genre of cyberpunk in a more organized fashion. And also as a chance for me to share my love of cyberpunk online and write reviews and then share with others who may not have known about different movies or music or video games, so they can discover it on their own and read my reviews and maybe get excited for it as well. Now let's get into the aesthetics and style of cyberpunk. Cyberpunk is all about dark, gritty tones. You have neon lights that are reflecting on puddles of water on the asphalt streets. In futuristic societies, you have mega buildings that resembles a bit of Kowloon City, the walled city in Hong Kong that has since been abandoned, of just massive, massive apartment complexes reaching to the sky with thousands or millions of people all stuffed in tiny little spaces living together. Um, you have highways in the sky that are crossing over and subway systems in the sky, and then you have flying cars perhaps as well. Everything is kind of neon, and you have lots of virtual reality or augmented reality advertisements in the form of holograms going through the air in all these different colors, and almost always it's in a dark setting. Yeah, so it visually is very beautiful, but definitely of a certain taste.
And now, what do you love most about cyberpunk? What are you passionate about it? Why?
So I'm
really passionate about cyberpunk.
I really love cyberpunk because of basically the visuals. It's beautiful. The action. There are different types of cyberpunk that people like differently. Like Blade Runner is more of a mystery thriller, I would say. The Matrix is more of an action adventure with philosophy. That's my personal favorite, obviously, since I started Cyberpunk Matrix. But it's really when you had the combination of what could be with incredible science fiction that could be real in the future, combined with mystery and action and philosophy and deep thoughts that makes you think really about what we should or shouldn't do with technology that we could have in the future. That's very interesting. Talking about questions of morality, questions about whether we should give rights to artificial intelligence or to robots or things like that, or should we continue living through consciousness on a chip instead of our actual human bodies? Like, what makes us human, really? Those are questions that are very interesting to me, and I love having it be delivered in a slick science fiction, futuristic, action-packed movie at the same time. So that for me, like Battle Angel Alita is a great example. Matrix is a great example. Upgrade was a great example as well. Just future societies where it's so interesting. And like every piece of technology that's set in the future, that like what would happen if we had this technology, what would our lives be like, is just really fun for me to play with in my mind. Now, these are all the reasons why I love cyberpunk and why I wanted to start Cyberpunk Matrix and delve into the realm of cyberpunk myself. But there are a lot of other people out there, a lot of other people that I would like to hear from. So what you can expect for the Cyberpunk Matrix is we're going to interview a bunch of different people. We're going to interview everyday folks who don't know much about cyberpunk and want to know a bit more, or have seen just a few of the big blockbusters perhaps, or read a few of the classics. We're going to hear from also experts, people who are really into the genre but in a very specific areas. Like maybe some really love Blade Runner, others really love The Matrix, and we're going to hear from them. And so I'm going to be talking to different people in the genre, fans, writers perhaps, authors, fans, aficionados, all kinds of things. And we're just going to discuss our thoughts and our impressions the first time we saw different pieces of media in cyberpunk, and discuss a bit about what it means if we're seeing any cyberpunk now in the present, and what it means for society and for us. Make sure to tune in every week to the Cyberpunk Matrix podcast. Make sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform, whether it be Spotify or iTunes. Subscribe and leave a 5-star review if you like it. That'll really help with continuing the podcast. Make sure to check out the Cyberpunk Matrix blog online, where we explain what the cyberpunk is in detail, a guide for how to consume the different cyberpunk content that's out there, from the oldest content out there to the most newest, our reviews, our tips. We look at also if something is cyberpunk or not, and I think you'll really enjoy it. This is your operator, Alex. It's time to disconnect and reconnect into the real. Over and out.
You have just been in the cyberspace with your host, Alex. Welcome back to the desert of the real. If your upload was smooth, leave a 5-star review on iTunes and subscribe for more content.